How do you prepare students for fast-evolving careers? What does it really mean to thrive in an AI-powered world? Today's guest works at the intersection of innovation and education, where artificial intelligence and student partnerships are reshaping the future. Dr. Claudia Arcolin is the Executive Director for Teaching and Learning Experiences at the University of Texas at San Antonio. She's working on groundbreaking programs combining cutting-edge technology with student-faculty partnerships. How can communication and connections remain the foundation of academic innovation with so much AI in our future? My name is Ryan McPherson, and this is the Storytelling Movement Podcast. Dr. Claudia Arcolin, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So I'm the Executive Director for Teaching and Learning Experiences. I've been at UTSA for 10 years in the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Digital Transformation. And we work with faculty to create learning experiences in different formats, from online courses for online programs to traditional courses. We explore different pedagogical frameworks and different strategies to enhance the learning experience for our students. For example, we had amazing opportunities through the partnership with the UT system about micro-credentials and generative artificial intelligence.
Those sound like really interesting programs. Can you tell us a little bit about the micro-credentials that are offered at UTSA and also what you're doing with AI?
Absolutely. So we started working with micro-credentials a couple of years ago as part of the grant in partnership with the UT system, Strata Grant Beyond Challenge Completion. And we incorporated different micro-credentials from the Coursera platform into different courses from humanities, women's studies, languages, and faculty could choose a micro-credential that would complement the curriculum they have for their courses. For example, we had the Google Project Management Certificate for humanities courses. So students can talk about critical thinking, they can develop critical thinking skills, and they can learn how to implement all these different skills into planning and monitoring a real project. So that was one of the most successful experiences we had with micro-credentials.
And I know one of the other micro-credentials that I like that I've incorporated in my classes is the Adobe Skills series, because I teach communication and we have a lot of people who are very interested in this kind of graphic design software and video editing software. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. UTSA is an Adobe Creative Cloud campus, and as part of this partnership, we have different Adobe badges available to our UTSA community, faculty and students. So if a faculty member would like to integrate an Adobe badge for students to explore generative artificial intelligence or to develop presentation skills or communication skills, they can do that. So there are so many opportunities for our students, and it's amazing the different resources available to them.
And getting to display a badge from Coursera, from Adobe Creative Skills Series, from LinkedIn Learning, these things are free for students. They can have access to certain opportunities from those other companies outside of UTSA for free and be able to add to their expertise and their credibility after graduation, which I think is a really exciting thing for our community. You also are working on an emerging technology partners program, and I'd like to ask you, how did that come to be? What happened there? Because ETP, or Emerging Technology Partners Program, that's a mouthful.
We started thinking about this idea back in October 2023. We were at EDUCAUSE, and our leader, Dr. Melissa Vito, she's the Vice Provost of Academic Innovation, had an idea about how can we create a role of student coaches using artificial intelligence and developing skills that they can showcase, but they can also teach to the network they're part of, starting from faculty, employers, their peers. So this is how we started drafting the idea of the Student Emerging Technology Partners. We worked very closely with the Division of Student Success, and we were able to launch the first cohort this summer with the 6 students and 3 faculty members who work on different projects focused on artificial intelligence, but also key micro-credentials on strategic communication, for example, and how to bring together all this knowledge to create resources for our UTSA community, both students and faculty.
So, what are the primary goals of this program?
I have to go back and think about how our department evolved during the pandemic and how the entire university embraced working on different resources, let's say faculty professional development or emerging technologies. We wanted to incorporate student voice in everything that we do. So this is how we started thinking about anytime we're thinking about a project, even faculty professional development. We want to hear what students need, what students think, and incorporate their voice into everything we do. So that is really the vision and the foundation of why we were thinking about creating these student emerging technology partners and overall having a framework for pedagogical partnership where the students can collaborate with faculty and together they can shape the future of higher education and the future of UTSA.
How do you see AI transforming the educational landscape, especially and specifically in higher ed, both on the teacher side, the faculty side, and on the student side?
Well, I have to tell you, I love generative artificial intelligence. I'm super enthusiastic about it. As soon as ChatGPT became popular, November 2022, I was already this is going to change completely education. This is going to change completely our life. But then, as I was exploring the technology, I believe that what will make a difference is the human connection. So we need to learn more about artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. We need to know how to use them to find more time and save more time for creativity, for nurturing different interests, and for really developing real human connections, being able to engage with other people, connect with other people. And this is something that we didn't do a lot during the pandemic, and it became difficult with the use of social media. So, really, what will make the difference in the university of the future is how faculty and students will be able to create these experiences to connect, to build a network, to really become human beings able to talk about different topics, to manage their feelings, to really to be real, to be authentic.
How have you seen faculty leveraging this technology specifically? Because I imagine there probably was some sort of hesitancy on the part of faculty who are making sure that we're instilling critical thinking. We're making sure that we're not using Google as a second brain. We're making sure that we're giving students the best opportunities possible for growth. So how have faculty met this challenge?
This is such a great question. And we just finished an informative session with faculty about generative artificial intelligence. And we were talking about all these philosophical questions that we have and how to use artificial intelligence in an ethical way and how we can leverage it to create engaging learning experiences. It's good to be skeptical. It's good to be enthusiastic about these emerging technologies. What I would like to see in the future is how to leverage technology to create resources for courses, how we can use generative artificial intelligence and connect it to the creation of open educational resources, how we can really ask students to explore different interests. And it will be easier with artificial intelligence and find their passion, find their purpose in life, in a sense.
Students often don't have the same hangups about using artificial intelligence, but some of them do, right? So we have some students who are ready to tackle these new technologies in meaningful ways to leverage them for educational growth. And we have some students who want to keep them at arm's length because maybe they're worried about legit privacy concerns. Maybe they're worried about legit plagiarism accusations. They don't want to get into the mess before everything's been clarified. What is it that the ETP or Emerging Technology Partners Program does to solve some of those kinds of problems?
Well, the student emerging technology partners, they're able to bring these concerns to the faculty population. So this is an important connection that we build because faculty can really here talking about these different concerns, challenges, and ideas that students may have. And then the role of faculty is to educate our students. So there are some things that we learned by experience and that our students may not know. That could be a very important things for privacy, how not to share personal identifiable information in an artificial intelligence platform, how to be very careful about different from the email to information about accounts that students may have on the social media. The other thing is how to ethically use the emerging technologies and artificial intelligence, what is right, what is wrong. And sometimes students may not know, for example, what cheating is. It could be different based on the experience they had in different countries. We're talking about the population of students with a high percentage of international students. So faculty can really help our students to understand how to use technology in the best way possible.
UTSA's significant populations that are international students, as you said, and first-gen students, and students from all different walks of life. And I can imagine this kind of program helping all sorts of students to adopt and use AI effectively before they graduate. Can you think of any specific success stories from the ETP program? Realizing that the ETP program is in its infancy and it was just launched, what are some of those successes that you've seen from the program?
The biggest success is that these students partnered with a few faculty members and they were able to create student guidelines for the use of generative artificial intelligence, talking a language that is students to students and talking about different perspectives about artificial intelligence from different scenarios. Like, I don't know what are the expectations on how to use artificial intelligence in my course. How should I start the conversation with my instructor? So these guidelines bring to life some of the things and questions that our students may have. And you mentioned that we have many students who are first generation students and may not know or may not think is good to ask their instructors for more information. So this was probably the most successful outcome that came from this first experience with the ETP project.
Looking ahead, what do you see as the next steps for this Emerging Technology Partners program?
The idea of partnering with students will evolve a little bit in the fall semester. We will definitely try to replicate this experience, but we are also very proud of offering a student experience program with a good cohort of faculty members. And we would like to include students in this program so that students are going to be partners for faculty professional development. We're going to talk about different teaching practices and how we can incorporate student voice into these practices to really create authentic, engaging experiences. We have to consider that education changed a lot. It changed a lot during the pandemic, when we came back from the pandemic, now with all the different technologies. So we cannot think about the classroom experience how it was 5 or 10 years ago. We need to find new ways to engage our students, but also we need to find new ways to create a space for them to express themselves.
What do you see as the biggest problems or challenges with that kind of embracing of AI? Because I know you've spoken about the ethical dilemmas, but what are some of the other challenges and opportunities that come with faculty and students embracing AI in such a big way?
I think there are two things that we need to consider, and that will be elements that faculty need to consider when they think about their teaching practice. The first one is the attention span. So, with the social media and now with artificial intelligence, students are used to have immediate answers, immediate content, and they may not pay enough attention to check if those content, those information are reliable. And this is the second component that I think faculty will need to consider. It's how to educate students to check their sources and to not trust everything they find on the internet or that is generated by artificial intelligence.
And that's an age-old problem with a new dressing, right? Because we've always had problem of vetting sources and making sure sources are credible and trustworthy. And now we have a new source that could be trusted too much. Do you see a danger in trusting AI too much on both the faculty or the student side? And what might that look like?
I think it could be dangerous to trust artificial intelligence too much. And I'm thinking about another initiative we're working on, which is a learning community of faculty members to identify strategies to promote civil discourse in the classroom and how easy it is to create fake information with artificial intelligence. And so if we're thinking about creating safe environment for our students to talk about different topics, they also need to know they need to check the information, the sources.
I agree. And I think that this is an opportunity and also thing that might get in the way of the educational experience, right? If we have people who aren't vetting sources, or if we come to a place where we're too complacent, if we trust AI too much, that could be definitely an opportunity for some bad things to happen, right?
No, absolutely. The other thing is not to rely too much on artificial intelligence. We're living in a fast paced world, and it is sometimes more convenient to use artificial intelligence just to be productive and generate content and do stuff. But then you lose that moment for metacognition, for reflection, for creativity. So that is something else that both educators, people in general, should think about when approaching and using artificial intelligence. It's good sometimes to disconnect from technology, recharge, see what's happening around us, and be more alert in a sense.
As someone teaching communication, I see great possibility and I get excited about AI. I've been excited since the beginning, as you know, but I also see some dangers here that aren't necessarily having to do with the credibility of the software or the programs, but how we connect with each other. What does it look like when instead of being able to go talk to your professor or being able to go talk to your teaching assistant or being able to go talk to your peers, instead you turn to a machine? In an age where loneliness has exploded and our measures of isolation seem to be climbing, in part thanks to the technologies like social media and other technologies that seem to make us more connected but more apart. How can we fight against those tendencies of isolation that come with the adaptation of these new technologies?
That is something thinking about often because relying too much on technology can bring to isolation or not have sounding boards to have different voices, different perspectives. So with ChatGPT, if you start a conversation with ChatGPT, it's usually very political correct. It will not say you're wrong. It may suggest consider this from a different perspective, but it's not like talking to a real friend. And also, human relations are complicated in a sense. And there are different skills that people need to learn from having empathy and being able to negotiate different points of view that you cannot develop with a machine. You cannot develop if you have a dialogue with ChatGPT or another technology. It's important that you go there and live the moment with the person and have real experiences.
And earlier you were talking about a program centered around civil discourse. This impacts that too, doesn't it? Because we want our students to have civil discourse abilities and be able to debate things based on issues without personal attacks, for example. How do you see AI affecting civil discourse?
I remember when I was in school, one of the courses that I liked the most about communication was a theory by Patsody about verbal and nonverbal communication. With ChatGPT, it's verbal communication, but communication is much more. Is body language, is being able to read the room where you are, and being able to connect with different people and have that intuition that will help you to connect on a deeper level. So right now, the technology that we have does not allow to do that. And so when we talk about civil discourse, it's important that we talk about skills social skills that students need to have.
And this idea of social skills plays nicely into another program that we're both a part of, the Students Experience Project. What does that look like, and how does that relate to these conversations that we're having about integrating AI and integrating civil discourse?
The Student Experience Project is one of the most important professional development programs we have at UTSA for our faculty. It's part of a bigger project with the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, and we partner with other institutions to create learning environments that promote a sense of belonging, that create a space for students to connect with their instructors, to feel engaged, to feel they can succeed in college. So being able to have an open dialogue, feeling that the students belong to the class, belong to campus, it's the foundations for a great college experience.
I know that in the Student Experience Project, you had mentioned connection, belonging, engagement. These are very human problems. In what ways might AI help us to bridge those kinds of gaps?
I'm thinking about a couple of cases where AI can help. We mentioned about international students or not English as a first language students. So an interesting use of artificial intelligence is to jot down their ideas, their thoughts, and maybe have a way for the technology to help students re-elaborate what they would like to say. So it could be an opportunity to find their voice. Another thing is to explore different scenarios and maybe practice with artificial intelligence, with ChatGPT, for example, how to handle a difficult conversation and prepare for that. Or sometimes when they're studying, they may think that, or they may have a question in the middle of the night. They can ask a question to artificial intelligence and start thinking about, hey, how to re-elaborate this question. How can I bring this to the attention of my instructor? So using artificial intelligence as learning assistant in a way.
And that can help decrease communication apprehension, which everyone has a certain level of. You don't just have to be giving a presentation in front of other people to feel a little bit of anxiety, apprehension about communicating. That is something that we all live with as part of the human condition. I see great intersection between the emerging technology partners and the Student Experience Project and being able to solve common problems and talk about common issues like those which you just described. Are there other places where these two programs overlap on helping faculty to help students and helping students to better understand and communicate with faculty?
Another use of artificial intelligence could be for faculty to create open educational resources, something that I really like and I try to incorporate into the courses that I teach. I teach a couple of courses for the Learning Design and Technology program. And I really want my students to find their interests and find the resources and the way to nurture this interest. So sometimes they ask me questions and I'm not familiar with everything that they're asking me. But with the ChatGPT, with generative artificial intelligence, I can start drafting some questions for them to explore a specific topic, or what are some of the connections that I help them to create to really find the answers they need. So that is another way of using artificial intelligence in the course, in the learning experience, and having students feel that I listen to them and I want to support their growth and I want them to be successful.
So you and I both used AI as an assistant in creating materials for courses and helping to brainstorm where to take courses. What are some other ways that you've used AI as someone teaching students? And how have you invited students to use AI in your courses? And I know this is a personal question. So if you want to let us know why you have invited AI into your teaching and educational experience, tell us that too.
My students want to become instructional designers. I think I have a responsibility to teach and show them how to use artificial intelligence because it's an important technology that they need if they want to build a career in this field. So some of the strategies that I incorporate in my own courses are, for example, let's see what artificial intelligence tools are available to create a module outline or a lesson plan. And then let's critique that generated lesson plan. Let's improve it. Let's bring different perspectives. Let's see how we can create branching scenarios if we think about prospective learners. So it's just how to use artificial intelligence as a thinking partner in a sense and creative partner to be able to create learning experiences. This is one of the things that I suggest them to do and to explore. I encourage them to use artificial intelligence. And sometimes we joke about, you may have a question about, majority of my students are working full time and they're teachers. And it's like, well, you can enter into ChatGPT what it's in your refrigerator and see how you can prepare a healthy meal for yourself. These type of things. Really very easy, very simple, just to get familiar with the technology.
You mentioned branching scenarios. What does that look like in instructional design?
Branching scenarios are aligned to the student needs in the sense that not all students can start a course with the same level of experience and knowledge, especially if I'm thinking about the courses I'm teaching. I have teachers having these experiences for 15, 20 years, or I have a newly graduate student who would like to explore the field of instructional technology. These students come with very different experiences. So building branching scenarios will help them to fill those gaps that they may have and explore resources that they may be familiar with or not. And this is very helpful to create opportunities for them to have a more personalized learning experience.
And that personalization and learning is one of the big opportunities that we get excited about when we talk about integrating AI into the student experience. Outside of personalization, what are the other opportunities you see in instructional design for artificial intelligence?
Well, let me say that working with instructional designers is amazing because usually there are people very curious. They love learning. They love to experience different technologies. So I just love teaching these classes because it gives me an opportunity to stay up to date with everything that's happening about education and technology and to really have that connection with students. Now, about artificial intelligence and how we can use it in instructional design, we talk about creating resources, open educational resources, creating personalized learning experiences, having artificial intelligence as a learning assistant. Probably something else is to develop creativity, just to have a space where students can explore different topics and ask questions and be curious. Something that fascinates me a lot is interacting with artificial intelligence and having, for example, the tool create a novel short story in the style of Edgar Allan Poe or another author or artist and see having that experience and really spark creativity and see how will it look like to have the opportunity to talk to this person. It's not real, but it could really spark creativity in a sense.
Academic Innovation is working with ETP, Emerging Technology Partners. They're working with SEP, Student Experience Project. They're working on civil discourse. They're working on AI learning communities. What are some of the outcomes that you've seen that might be celebratory for UTSA?
Why we're doing all the work that we are doing? Because we want to create engaging learning experiences. We want the college experience to be something to remember and to treasure for the rest of our students' life and for the rest of our life. And we want to give the resources and tools and skills for our students to be successful and to feel accomplished in their life.
What advice would you give to other institutions who haven't yet created a student experience project or an emerging technology partners project or a civil discourse project or all these kinds of things that you're doing to help level up the student experience?
I would suggest to be curious and to connect with other colleagues within their institution and from different other universities. Networking and brainstorming ideas is what brings innovation forward. It would brings new ideas and can save some time and can really help to create amazing programs and projects for our faculty and our students.
What advice would you give students or faculty who are thinking about joining one of these programs?
Well, for faculty, please come and visit the Academic Innovation Center. I like to think that this is a hub of innovation. I like to think it's a place where faculty can connect with us, know more about what opportunities are available. I always talk about come here, have a good cup of coffee, let's connect, let's talk more. It's amazing what these connections can create, the ideas that can bring. And for students, the same. We are in the Student Success District. If you are familiar with the UTSA campus, we are in the Multidisciplinary Studies building right behind the Rowdy statue and in front of the Tomás Rivera Center. You can come and visit us, ask any questions, because it's part of the learning process to be curious about something and not knowing everything. And so I want to think about myself and my colleagues as partners to support our faculty and students and to contribute even if a little bit to their success.
Dr. Claudia Arcolin, can you please tell us where our audience can find you online? And if you can, please spell your name out for our listeners who might be trying to type it into the computer.
Hey, you can find me online on LinkedIn and you can search for CLAUDIA and last name ARCOLIN. I look forward to connecting with you all.
Excellent. We will look for Claudia on LinkedIn, and maybe we just might see some posts about the Emerging Technology Partners Program, or the Student Experience Project, or Civil Discourse, or embracing AI in AI learning communities at UTSA.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ryan.